Hey, Ag Teacher Thoughts here, coming at you with another video. One of the things that's really neat about being a plant guy and a nurseryman is a lot of times you get to see new plants enter into the nursery and greenhouse industry. And a lot of people kind of ask and they wonder, where do these plants come from? Well, one of the things is you have people that go out and hunt for new plants. And there's a couple of requirements for working with plants that you're going to put into a greenhouse. One is, if you're going to patent it, you have to make some change, right? So you have to change a color, change a shape, change a habit, and then get that change to be repeatable. So there are people that travel all over the world and they look for all sorts of different plants and they work with them for a few years to make a change to domesticate it. And then they'll bring those to greenhouse growers at big shows or field days, if you will. And greenhouse growers get a look at those and decide whether or not they want to carry them. And when I was driving up to this area last week at a lower elevation, these were blooming and I could see them from the roadside, but by the time I got back up here, they'd stopped blooming. And I really wanted to stop and see because it's not a plant that I'm familiar with. And I wanted to see kind of what it was like, what its habit was, if I could determine if it was an annual or a perennial. And then, of course, see if somebody has a domesticated version of it. So that is definitely one that's going to be on my list. What is it? I don't know. I'm up in McCall, Idaho. This is not an area that I've spent much time at. So I don't know what the plants are here, but you can bet that I'm going to look and I'm going to figure it out. And I'm kind of doing a short video series on some of these plants that are just fantastic looking, and I find them quite striking. And there's almost a little tiger stripe to the blossoms, which is really, really cool. And there's a bunch of them. There's their foliage down below. They don't seem to last too long. And I was watching a hummingbird feed on this patch here earlier. So this, if you were to bring this into an outdoorsy setting, that would definitely be a really cool thing to bring in. Like hummingbirds. But one of the other things is, I know we're about 5,600 feet, somewhere about that. So you also have to have that consideration of, will that plant actually grow at a lower elevation? Or is there some other requirement that they need that's not here? That was one thing that I learned as a kid from my father, is he had planted some trees, some kind of white fir. I can't remember specifically, but it was very pretty. It had bluish white needles and it made great Christmas trees. But the problem was, we were at such a low elevation. We were only about 125 feet above sea level, and this was a higher elevation tree. So it didn't reach maturity before it started really struggling and dying. So that's one of the other things that you've got to kind of know, is what is the requirements for that plant to survive throughout the year. What does it need for the seed to germinate? What pollinators does it need? Will it actually grow at a lower elevation? So that's kind of what those plant researchers do. They're kind of like the Indiana Jones of the plant world. They go out and they look for plants they don't know in regions far flung around the world to bring you brand new plants. And personally, it's something I've always wanted to do, but I am kind of limited in my financial abilities to do that, and my health doesn't necessarily afford me the abilities to just go tromp out in the woods in a foreign country. But yeah, it's nice to get out and see plants I don't know in areas I don't expect them. That was definitely a pretty plant. And there are some common ones that I know. Like this is a yarrow. It's one of the yarrows. It was a medicinal plant for. It was a medicinal plant for our local tribes, and that one actually has been domesticated. So I've seen that there many times before. We have some dandelions here. The other thing is I found broadleaf plantain, which is another medicinal, not a native one, and it didn't grow around the high school where I taught, but I did find it here in McCall. So I don't know. anyway, I think it's interesting. I'm enjoying it. And anyway, I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're learning something. Ag Teacher Thoughts out.